Ellensburg has multiple claims to fame. It was a contender for the state capitol, as well as home to Central Washington University and the Ellensburg Rodeo. But since the mid-1990s, it has also gained notoriety as the location of an otherworldly portal going into the bowels of the earth. Mel's Hole, as it is known, has inspired conspiracy theories and urban legends. While some listeners doubted those often outlandish claims, others were captivated and wanted more. Denise Whitaker from KFOR embarked on a journey eastward to uncover the truth behind this enigmatic pit. But when a camera was lowered into this abyss, the footage it returned got shivers down their spines. What exactly is down there? A gateway to hell? Another dimension? Time portal? Or another planet? Join us as we dig deep into what explorers found at the bottom of Mel's never-ending hole. The legend of Mel's Hole all started with a phone call. From 1989 to 2007, Art Bell's Coast to Coast was a staple of late-night AM radio, with Bell fielding calls to his studio in Pahrump, Nevi. People called about UFOs, occult activity, conspiracy theories, and the paranormal. It was a relatively innocent time when conspiracy theories were entertainment and not existential threats to democracy. On February 24, 1997, Bell had a man on the line who identified himself as Mel Waters, who lived near Ellensburg. This man claimed that there was a hole on his property southwest of the city that was unusual. A real-life, bottomless pit. With 9 feet in diameter, the pit stretched 15 feet down before consuming darkness. Locals termed the pit the Devil's Hole, as they felt it to be an unsettling pit with something wrong. Wondering what something was, it was something that locals never questioned or had time to think about. The residents simply dumped the hole with garbage, without questioning why it never filled up, or at least appeared to be filled up. It was Waters' curious mind that raised questions, and thus he went on for testing. His strategic testing plan was to use thousands of feet of fishing lines. Waters could then measure how down it went before reaching the bottom by adding weight to the fishing line and using a sturdy rod out to the hole. His test failed to give any number. Well, it technically gave the lower bound and could not prove any estimation for the upper. As far as the least goes, the weighted line did go 80,000 feet down, and Waters claimed the line still did not reach the bottom. For comparison, the Kola Super Deep borehole, the deepest hole ever dug, reaches approximately 7.5 miles or 40 to 230 feet below the Earth's surface, a depth that took about 20 years to reach. Another reference, according to the United States Geological Survey outlines, the amount of fishing line that Waters used would reach about a quarter of the way through the Earth's crust at its thickest. But the fishing line was only the beginning. In a claim reminiscent of Stephen King's 1983 horror novel and 1989 movie by the same name, Pet Sematary, Waters described an instance where his neighbor dropped the body of their deceased pet dog into the hole. The owner got the shock of their life when they saw their pooch alive and well in the nearby woods only a little while later. They recognized the dog because he wore the same collar. However, the dog showed no signs of recognizing his owner and did not respond to his calls. While it may be a more desirable result than the grieving pet owner saw in King's tale, Waters' claim was more than enough to terrify and enthrall listeners. In another claim, Waters revealed that Mel's Hole had strange effects on some everyday objects. Art Bell and his listeners hung on to every word as Waters mentioned the odd things that metal items and portable radios would start to do whenever they were near the opening of the 9-foot diameter hole. He claimed that metals would mysteriously change into other metals or substances whenever he held them near the entrance. Waters also recounted an instance where he brought his radio to the pit and set it to his favorite radio station. But instead of music, the radio put out strange, unknown voices and programs and music from the past. Waters described many of his experiments at the pit, and each one seemed to produce a more unsettling result than the last. In one of his final calls, Waters described lowering a bucket of ice down to 457 meters, and when he lifted it out, he noticed that the ice was warm but did not melt. He said it had changed into a flammable substance. The warm ice was not the only time that his experiments defied the laws of science. When he yelled down into the hole, he claimed there was no echo. There was also no sound after large trash items, such as refrigerators or television CRT tubes, were thrown into the pit to confirm that they had hit bottom. One of Waters's most disturbing claims involved lowering a live sheep into the hole to around 1,500 feet, as he did in the ice bucket experiment. The sheep shrieked and kicked on the way down, then suddenly went silent. When Waters lifted it out, he found that the animal had been cooked. The sheep had also developed a strange lump, which, to his horror, started to move. He cut it open and found a fetal seal that he said gazed at him with intelligent, human-like eyes. Waters went on to add that the creature miraculously cured his cancer. It jumped back into the hole, but was seen later by local sheep herders who claimed it radiated a benevolent presence. This chilling story may explain why Waters's dogs refused to come within 30.5 meters of the hole and why birds never sat on its stone retaining wall or metal cover. The many strange occurrences that Waters recounted on Coast to Coast AM were not limited to items he lowered into the hole. Sometimes, mysterious things would come out of it too. Waters described a disturbing report from one of his neighbors who had seen a blacker-than-black beam of light coming from the cursed pit. He explained it as the light of a flashlight that threw out a beam of solid black instead of the standard white-ish hue. Black is easily one of the most ominous colors that could come from a mysterious pit, as it is often associated with evil, death, and emptiness. The talk of Mel's Hole eventually got big enough that the federal government caught wind of it. As Waters recounted in a later call, he was heading toward the hole one day when a man in a suit approached him and said that the area had been closed off due to a plane crash. The man told Waters that he was no longer allowed near the pit. Waters described seeing men in biohazard suits standing behind him. Soon after, the government leased the land and gave him a generous amount of money to vacate the property. Waters accepted the money and moved to Australia. The addition of a government conspiracy significantly increased interest in the urban legend. 2 years later, in one of his final calls, Waters claimed he had come back to Washington 2 years after moving to Australia, despite a warning from the government not to return. He said police officers removed him from a bus and left him on the streets of San Francisco 2 weeks later. He had IV marks on his arm, several missing teeth, and no memory of what transpired. Waters managed to continue to his hometown, but felt that menacing strangers were stalking him. He was told his land had been taken over by the government, and found the region had been erased on an early mapping system called TerraServer. In logic, we call this a special pleading, an excuse invented to explain away any objection. Why is there no evidence? Of course, the government eliminated all the evidence. Nevertheless, that was not the end of Waters's story. He said that he found a nearly identical hole in the Badlands of Nevada. This one had a metal ring that extended down into the ground instead of a brick lining, but his experiments at the site produced similar results. A Facebook poll from the Daily Record asked people whether they believed Mel's Hole was real or not in 2012. Some people from Reddit shared coordinates of possible locations and tried to get a group together to find it in 2018. As recently as 2022, it was featured in a podcast called Astounding Legends in May and an article on grunge in November. Like Mel's Hole, this urban legend may have no end. So, what's the status of the Mel's Hole tale? Not only has the story not died, but it's continued to garner attention and tickle curiosity. In 2005, 3 years after Mel Waters' final call to Coast AM, chat groups like those on Above Top Secret discussed the story and its believability. In 2007, folks like those on Sheffield Forum did the same. What's interesting, besides Mel, a tribal medicine man in Washington state, calling himself Gerald R. Osborne or Red Elk, kept the Mel's Hole tale going. He told reporters that he had visited the pit many times since 1961. Osborne then attested to the truth of Mel's Hole and claimed that the government maintained a top-secret base there where alien activities take place.
An underground base. A very small underground base.
That's how Red Elk explains the white boxes covering the area on some satellite images. He also said he's seen alien activity in the area.
A huge spacecraft one will appear and hover over the hole.
That's what he said happens during summer solstice, when spacemen load and unload things at the hole before flying away. At the Northwest Museum of Legends and Lore, Phil Lipson said he's heard the stories.
Well, I believe there is a hole. I think it's actually a true event, just something that's never been totally uncovered.
And to this day, many people claim they found that hole and saw weird things happening there. They heard strange noises coming out of the hole. Others saw lights and unusual creatures coming out of the hole. Meanwhile, people or objects that enter it never come back, and no one sees them ever again. One possible explanation for the anomalous properties of Mel's Hole is that it serves as a naturally occurring wormhole, a hypothetical tunnel-like structure that connects disparate points in spacetime. If Mel's Hole indeed represents a wormhole, its bottomless depths could be attributed to its connection to distant regions of space or alternate dimensions. Alternatively, the observed distortions in space and time near Mel's Hole could be the result of localized gravitational anomalies. These anomalies may arise from the presence of dense matter or exotic energy configurations beneath the surface, leading to curvature effects that influence the behavior of nearby objects and fields. Quantum mechanical effects, such as vacuum fluctuations or quantum entanglement, could also contribute to the anomalous phenomena associated with Mel's Hole. If the region surrounding the hole experiences fluctuations in quantum fields, it could manifest as apparent distortions in space and time on macroscopic scales. Investigating the hypothesis of Mel's Hole presents several challenges. Given its remote location and the lack of definitive scientific data, empirical validation remains elusive. However, advancements in technology, such as gravitational wave detectors and precision instruments, offer potential avenues for further exploration. Future research could involve conducting detailed surveys of the area surrounding Mel's Hole, employing techniques like ground-penetrating radar and gravitational anomaly detection. Additionally, theoretical models incorporating concepts from quantum mechanics and general relativity could provide insights into the nature of space-time distortions at the site. When the mystery of Mel's Hole still has scientists puzzled, conspiracy theorists excited, and the rest of us taking a new look at the stability of the ground beneath our feet. For years, mankind has looked up at the stars, but in many ways, there is a world just as fascinating below us as there is above us. Beneath our feet, lying under the surface of the earth, is a whole world of mysteries and strange phenomena. Here are the 10 biggest unsolved mysteries from beneath the Earth's surface. Number 10. A colossal ecosystem teeming with life below, Earth's surface. Beneath your feet in the depths of our planet, there's an unbelievably vast ecosystem teeming with life. A decade-long collaboration between scientists has revealed how billions upon billions of microorganisms live miles beneath Earth's subsurface. Presenting their work at the American Geophysical Union's annual meeting, it's the first time scientists have calculated the size of this mysterious treasure trove of life, and it's way bigger than they expected. They report that approximately 70% of the total number of microbes on the planet live underground. In total, these microbes represent around 15 to 23 billion tons of carbon, hundreds of times greater than the carbon mass of all humans on the surface. Scientists have barely scratched the surface when it comes to describing these microorganisms. However, first glances suggest that the genetic diversity of life below the surface might be comparable, or perhaps even exceed, life above the surface. This is why they've nicknamed it the subterranean Galapagos. However, don't expect any giant tortoises down there. Bacteria and their evolutionary cousins, archaea, seem to dominate beneath the surface, although the researchers also noted a fair number of eukarya down there too. For example, researchers described an unidentified nematode over 0.8 miles deep in a South African gold mine. To reach the findings, the team brought together dozens of studies that looked at samples brought up from drilling between 1.5 and 3 miles into the Earth's crust, both in the seafloor and the inland continents. Also, to their surprise, they discovered that the subsurface deep biosphere is almost twice the volume of all oceans. Subjected to intense heat, crushing pressures, no light, and scarcely any nutrients, this is hardly where you would expect to find a diverse bank of microbial life. Nevertheless, the researchers believe that this ecosystem could answer many questions about the limits of life on Earth and beyond. Number 9. The core of the Earth. Earth's inner core has its own inner core, a giant ball of metal 400 miles across. Experts first theorized about this mysterious body in 2002 and have since proved its existence on several occasions. Before that, it was thought that our planet was made of 4 layers: the crust, the mantle, and the outer and inner core. But now, scientists can add the innermost inner core to that list, although very little is known about it. To find out more, scientists are studying the ripples caused by large earthquakes. These seismic waves dart along Earth's diameter, ping-ponging to and fro, sometimes as many as 5 times. By investigating how the waves are distorted as they pass through the heart of the planet, researchers can catch a glimpse of the innermost inner core. Number 8. Diamond factory at the Earth's core. The boundary zone between Earth's molten metal core and the mantle, its rocky middle layer, might be a diamond factory. Indeed, the Earth's core is the largest carbon storage on Earth. Roughly 90% is buried there. Scientists have shown that the oceanic crust that sits on top of tectonic plates and falls into the interior through subduction contains hydrous minerals and can sometimes descend all the way to the core mantle boundary. The temperature at the core mantle boundary is at least twice as hot as lava, and high enough that water can be released from the hydrous minerals. Therefore, a chemical reaction similar to rusting steel could occur at Earth's core mantle boundary. A laboratory experiment finds that under extreme temperatures and pressures, the combination of iron, carbon, and water, all potential ingredients found at the core mantle boundary, can form diamond. If this process also happens deep inside Earth, it might explain some weird quirks of the mantle, including why it has more carbon in it than scientists expect. The findings also might help to explain strange structures deep in the core mantle boundary, where waves from earthquakes slow down dramatically. These regions, known as ultra-low velocity zones, are associated with strange mantle structures, including 2 giant blobs under Africa and the Pacific Ocean. They can be just a few miles across, or many hundred. No one knows exactly what they are. Some scientists think they date back 4.5 billion years and are made of materials from the very ancient Earth. But the new research suggests that some of these zones may owe their existence to plate tectonics, which likely started well after Earth's formation, perhaps 3 billion years ago. Number 7. Never before seen magnetic waves across Earth's outer core. While volcanic eruptions and earthquakes serve as immediate reminders that Earth's insides are anything but tranquil, there are also other, more elusive, dynamic processes happening deep down below our feet. Using information from ESA's Swarm satellite mission, scientists have discovered a completely new type of magnetic wave that sweeps across the outermost part of Earth's outer core every 7 years. This fascinating finding opens a new window into a world we can never see. As Nicolas Gillet, lead author of the study, said, "Geophysicists have long theorized over the existence of such waves, but they were thought to take place over much longer time scales than our research has shown. Measurements of the magnetic field from instruments based on the surface of Earth suggested that there was some kind of wave action, but we needed the global coverage offered by measurements from space to reveal what is actually going on." Number 6. Hallmarks of Earth's galactic travels. To see a world in a grain of sand, the opening sentence of the poem by William Blake, is an oft-used phrase that also captures some of what geologists do. We observe the composition of mineral grains, smaller than the width of a human hair. Then, we extrapolate the chemical processes they suggest to ponder the construction of our planet itself. Now, we've taken that minute attention to new heights, connecting tiny grains to Earth's place in the galactic environment. There, researchers pulled off this remarkable feat by decoding the age and composition of these minerals. As the solar system shifts across the Milky Way, icy debris gets knocked out of its outer reaches and soars inward. Some of the material is thought to slam into Earth, striking at 32.3 miles per second. Evidence of these high-energy impacts remains preserved in tiny crystals in the crust, enabling geologists to plot the planet's course across the cosmos. Number 5. Core leaking helium from Big Bang. A rare form of helium gas is escaping from the Earth's core, and scientists reckon it could date back to the formative stages of the universe. In a 2022 study, researchers at the American Geophysical Union demonstrated just how much helium-3 gas is emitted from the heart of the planet. Helium-3 is most often created in enormous, rotating disks of gas and dust known as solar nebulae. Many astronomers believe that the solar system was born inside a solar nebula, and this newfound evidence suggests that Earth could have been too. Number 4. Enormous river under Antarctica. Deep beneath Antarctica, there lies a river that stretches for 285 miles, longer than London's Thames. Scientists uncovered the behemoth water feature using an aircraft-mounted radar system. Aerial surveys revealed the gigantic river to run beneath the Antarctic ice sheets and drain into the Weddell Sea. According to study co-author Martin Siegert, a glaciologist at the Grantham Institute at Imperial College London, when we first discovered lakes beneath the Antarctic ice a couple of decades ago, we thought they were isolated from each other. Now we are starting to understand there are whole systems down there, interconnected by vast river networks, just as they might be if there weren't thousands of meters of ice on top of them. This network of flow means that the bottom of the ice sheet is slippery. The region drained by the system has the capacity to raise global sea levels by 14.1 feet if it were all to melt. This melt wouldn't happen all at once, but there is a lot of uncertainty about how the ice will respond as the planet warms. The river system sits under 4 slowly flowing masses of ice: the Institute Ice Stream, the Mahler Ice Stream, Support Force Glacier, and Foundation Ice Stream Academy Glacier, which are vulnerable to instability should their borders retreat inland. The river emerges under a floating ice shelf into the Weddell Sea, where the meltwater has the potential to eat away at the ice shelf from below. That sort of destabilization could lead to faster ice retreat than expected, and to the thinning and fracturing of the ice sitting on top of the Antarctic bedrock. Thinner, fractured ice may melt more quickly due to the friction of the ice grinding along the rock, bringing more water to the under-ice river system and further hastening the melting of the ice shelf. Understanding these dynamics and the speed at which melt is likely to occur is crucial for understanding how quickly Antarctica will lose ice as the climate changes. Number 3. hidden zone beneath tectonic plates. The Earth with the upper mantle revealed. Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin have discovered a previously unknown layer of partly molten rock in a key region just below the tectonic plates. This newfound layer is part of the upper mantle, lying around 100 miles under the surface. Its discovery sheds new light on the inner workings of the mantle. Scientists know that the asthenosphere acts as a soft boundary of sorts between the upper mantle and the tectonic plates. But exactly how that boundary works is less understood. This new research indicates that heat and rock convection in the mantle has a major effect on plate motion and not melt, as previously thought. Number 2. Unidentified structures near the Earth's core. In 2020, geophysicists from the University of Maryland announced that they had discovered something strange while scouring through the records of seismic waves. The data showed signs of hot regions of highly dense rock between the core and the mantle. Scientists had already caught a glimpse of the structures before, but the new research gave greater insight into their nature and properties. By studying signals from under the Pacific Ocean basin, the Maryland team pieced together evidence of a previously unidentified structure beneath the Marquesas Islands in the South Pacific. As lead author Doyon Kim explained, by looking at thousands of core mantle boundary echoes at once, instead of focusing on a few at a time as is usually done, we have gotten a totally new perspective. Earthquakes generate seismic waves below Earth's surface that travel thousands of miles. When the waves encounter changes in rock density, temperature, or composition, they change speed, bend, or scatter, producing echoes that can be detected. Echoes from nearby structures arrive more quickly, while those from larger structures are louder. By measuring the travel time and amplitude of these echoes as they arrive at seismometers in different locations, scientists can develop models of the physical properties of rock hidden below the surface. This process is similar to the way bats echolocate to map their environment. For this study, Kim and his colleagues looked for echoes generated by a specific type of wave, called a shear wave, as it travels along the core mantle boundary. In a recording from a single earthquake, known as a seismogram, echoes from diffracted shear waves can be hard to distinguish from random noise. But looking at many seismograms from many earthquakes at once can reveal similarities and patterns that identify the echoes hidden in the data. Using a machine learning algorithm called Sequencer, the researchers analyzed 7,000 seismograms from hundreds of earthquakes of 6.5 magnitude and greater occurring around the Pacific Ocean basin from 1990 to 2018. Sequencer was developed by the new study's co-authors from Johns Hopkins University and Tel Aviv University to find patterns in radiation from distant stars and galaxies. When applied to seismograms from earthquakes, the algorithm discovered a large number of shear wave echoes. That was surprising because scientists were expecting them to be more rare, and what that means is the anomalous structures at the core mantle boundary are much more widespread than previously thought. The scientists found that the large patch of very dense, hot material at the core mantle boundary beneath Hawaii produced uniquely loud echoes, indicating that it is even larger than previous estimates. Known as ultra-low velocity zones, such patches are found at the roots of volcanic plumes, where hot rock rises from the core mantle boundary region to produce volcanic islands. The ultra-low velocity zones beneath Hawaii is the largest known. This study also found a previously unknown ULVZ beneath the Marquesas Islands. And that is really exciting because it shows how the sequencer algorithm can help us to contextualize seismogram data across the globe in a way we couldn't before. Number 1. Earth's largest ocean, discovered underground. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, there is a massive reservoir of water. It is estimated to contain 3 times the amount of water of all the oceans on our surface. In 2014, a team from the US used 2,000 seismometers to study seismic waves from over 500 earthquakes. By examining the speed of the waves at different depths, the team was able to determine what kind of rocks the waves traveled through before reaching the sensors. They found that some 400 miles below our feet, in the transition zone between the lower mantle and the upper mantle, was a rock called ringwoodite. Ringwoodite only forms under the intense pressure found towards the center of our planet. Only one sample from within the Earth, it has also been found in meteorites, has been discovered, trapped inside a tiny diamond. Ringwoodite contains water, not as liquid, but trapped inside the molecular structure of the minerals. And in the words of geophysicist Steve Jacobson, the ringwoodite is like a sponge, soaking up water. There is something very special about the crystal structure of ringwoodite that allows it to attract hydrogen and trap water. This mineral can contain a lot of water under conditions of the deep mantle. Previous experiments suggested that ringwoodite can contain up to 1.5% water, and the seismic waves detected were consistent with the rock below our feet containing water. The team estimated that if just 1% of the rock in the transition zone is water, that would mean it contains 3 times more water than all the oceans on Earth's surface. This fit with their results. As seismologist Brandon Schmant said, if there is a substantial amount of H2O in the transition zone, then some melting should take place in areas where there is flow into the lower mantle, and that is consistent with what we found. Scientists believe that the study contributes to evidence that Earth's water came from within. That's all the information that we have for you today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss out on future episodes. And be sure to also tell us what you think about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.